What's up, Chiefs Kingdom? Noah Gray here, tight end for the Kansas City Chiefs. Make sure you like, share, and subscribe to Josh's channel and check out showmefootball.com for more.
What is up, Chiefs Kingdom? Welcome back to another video on my channel. My name is Josh Fan of showmefootball.com and arrowheadaddict.com. And tonight I'm doing a free agency live stream where we talk about everything that's happened so far, things that are going to happen, and I'm also doing a Q&A for you guys. So for those of you that are watching tonight that are able to tune in, first of all, I appreciate you. But secondly, leave your questions and comments down below, and I will be sure to get to them. Tonight is going to be about you guys as well. It's been a while since I've done a live stream. I don't know how many people that I'm going to get, but it will actually really help if you guys are able to like and share this video as soon as possible, because it helps my video get seen. And maybe, just maybe, while I'm on here, a Chiefs move goes down and we see them sign somebody. They've been relatively quiet today. Now, part of the reason that they've probably been quiet today is because they actually don't have that much cap space right now after the Jawaan Taylor deal. Now, of course, he hasn't actually officially signed the contract yet, but the team still has to plan accordingly as if their cap is actually taken up right now. But something's going to have to give. Like, they're either going to have to restructure Mahomes, they're going to have to extend Chris Jones. They really want to continue to be players in free agency. Now, it's not like they can't sign anybody right now. It all depends on how the contract will be structured, though, and how much money they're actually spending. But I'll go ahead and actually start with the first comment that I got on the video. I'll go ahead and get to it. Bill Quancho, hold on. Chiefs Live is telling me in the comments just now, as I am live streaming, that the Kansas City Chiefs have signed free agent defensive end Charles Omenihu on a 2-year, $20 million deal. I actually really like this move. First of all, you guys are getting my live, raw reaction right now to the Chiefs signing Charles Omenihu. So this is a guy that I actually had as a potential trade candidate. Was it either this past season or last season to help out the pass rush? Started out with the Texans, went to the San Francisco 49ers as a free agent last offseason, I believe. Let me go ahead and look up his stats, though, because I don't remember his stats off the top of my head. He had a handful of sacks this year for the San Francisco 49ers, though. Let me go ahead and pull it up, though. So, Charles Omenihu. I can't believe we literally just had a free agent signing as soon as I started the live stream, guys. I had no idea that this was going to happen. I was hoping that we would have a signing happen when I started the live stream, but I didn't actually expect it literally right as I started. So last year for the San Francisco 49ers, Charles Omenihu had 4.5 sacks. He had 20 combined tackles, 13 assisted tackles. He was a rotational player for the Niners. I mean, that's what he is. He is a rotational player. He's not a guy that's going to come in here and even really be your DN number 2. You could probably still draft someone to start over him. But what Charles Omenihu immediately becomes is a great and inexpensive Frank Clark replacement. So Frank Clark last year, just to put this into perspective, Frank Clark last year had like 5 sacks, 5.5 sacks, I want to say, during the regular season. Charles Omenihu gives you Frank Clark production. He can. He had 4.5 sacks with San Francisco last season. He has 11.5 career sacks over the past 5 seasons, which isn't a great number, but if he can come in here and be a rotational guy, that's fine. And the Chiefs have George Karlaftis on the other side. They got Chris Jones in the middle. So you could probably bet that Charles Omenihu is going to benefit greatly from playing next to those two. Now, he also had a great pass rush in San Francisco that he was playing next to as well. But it's not like he was a starter there, and he got 4.5 sacks. So instant reaction, I love this signing for the Chiefs. He's a solid edge rusher, and he fits the Spags prototype. Like, I'm not surprised by this move at all. I had seen a lot of my Chiefs YouTuber counterparts also suggest Charles Omenihu to the Chiefs this offseason. Now, when I made my free agent defensive end video and suggestions, I actually was this close to putting Charles Omenihu on my list. Like, I kid you not. I'm not just saying this to make myself look better. I swear I was this close to putting Charles Omenihu on there because I felt like he was a Kansas City Chiefs signing, but it's not one of the moves that were on the top of my list, which is why I ultimately ended up not putting it on there. But real quick, excuse me, guys, while I tweet about this on my account. So I can't believe my luck right now, guys. All right. Horse Helmet actually left a comment down below. I'm going to go ahead and read this off because I really like what he brought up. He's coming off his best season, tallying 16 quarterback hits and 28 initial pressures with the 49ers. Omenihu is only 25 years old. So this is another signing of a younger guy that still has some experience in the league, but happens to also be very young. Fits the timeline of the Chiefs. We saw the same thing when they signed Jawaan Taylor. Jawaan Taylor has been in the league for 4 years now, but he is only 25 years old still. Oh, also another Chiefs update. The Broncos are signing fullback Mike Burton to a 1-year deal. Reunites with Sean Payton when he was in New Orleans. Michael Burton was with Sean Payton. So the Chiefs lose their fullback, Michael Burton, to the Denver Broncos. Interesting move right there. But I'll have more on the Omenihu signing as I see more come out on my Twitter. But for now, I'm going to answer some of your guys' questions and comments. So please leave them down below if you will. And also, if you're feeling generous tonight, you can leave a super chat. Those always help. But most importantly, make sure you're liking, sharing this video, and subscribing because that's what helps me the most. Let me get back to Bill Quantrell's question, which I was going to answer right before I just found out about the Charles Omenihu signing. But he says, have we traded for Tunsil yet? LOL, come on, Veach. Get a move on. So I know your comment was in jest. I gave my thoughts on potentially signing or trading for Laremy Tunsil yesterday in my video reacting to the Jawaan Taylor signing. And here's the thing. If the Chiefs traded for Jawaan Taylor, I would talk myself into it somehow. But or did I say Jawaan Taylor? I meant Laremy Tunsil. If they traded for Laremy Tunsil, I would talk myself into it somehow. However, the reason I don't see it happening, well, one, I don't think the Texans are actually looking to move Laremy Tunsil. I think the Chiefs called to, they were doing their due diligence. You're not doing your job as a general manager if you're not exhausting all avenues. The Chiefs shot for the stars by calling the Texans about Laremy Tunsil, but I don't think Laremy Tunsil is actually available. But the reason I don't see them trading for Laremy Tunsil, even besides that, is because the Chiefs would be putting I think they would have the most expensive offensive line in NFL history. You just paid Jawaan Taylor $20 million a year. Joe Thuney was the highest paid guard at the time of his signing. Creed and Trey are going to want extensions probably after next season. That's a lot of money to be putting in your offensive line, man. I just don't see them trading for Laremy Tunsil. Would it be cool as hell? And would it be one of the best offensive lines on paper of all time? Yes, but unrealistic. Seeing your guys' comments to Veach making a move as I start my live stream. I appreciate you actually letting me know, though, or else I wouldn't have found out. Like, I have my Twitter open, but I'm not, like, actively scrolling through it. But I appreciate that, guys. HFA Recon also brings this up. I had it into my notes, too. Made a short on it last night, but I'll give you my thoughts here. Tashawn Morton is also back. Good signing for the Chiefs. I mean, he wasn't going to have much of a market after his ACL tear last year. But he's a good rotational defensive tackle. Here's the thing. He started next to Chris Jones at the beginning of the 2022 season. So he was technically a starter, got injured. Colin Saunders ended up filling in for him. So that was nice. But I think Wharton's the better player, and I think he was really coming on. And if he's healthy and bounces back next year, it's going to be a really good looking signing. 1 year, $2 million, or 1 year, $2 million, no brainer. I also want to highlight something that I'm seeing Ian Rappaport tweet about the Charles Omenihu signing. He says 49ers pass rusher Charles Omenihu expected to sign with the Chiefs, gets a 2-year deal worth $20 million max value. Ian would not add max value at the end if there wasn't indication that this deal is going to be a lot of earnable incentives for Charles Omenihu. So it's not just a straight up 2-year, $20 million deal. Of course, it never is. I mean, it's all about the guaranteed money. But I think there's going to be a lot of incentives in this one, a lot of incentives for Charles Omenihu, but a great value signing for the Kansas City Chiefs. 4.5 sacks, solid rotational rusher, doesn't keep you from adding more depth in free agency. But yeah, this is definitely a Spags type. You know, he's a big rusher, like 270, 280 pounds. And yes, I said 200, not 600. I apologize. Jawaan Taylor, I accidentally said in my video reacting to the Jawaan Taylor signing that he was 620 pounds. He's obviously not 620 pounds, but I apologize, Jawaan Taylor. Horse Helmet says, also, isn't the Jawaan Taylor trade, I assume you mean signing, only taking up $5 million in cap this year, $20 million from then on? And is he only getting $40 million guaranteed? $60 million is for an injury. So Jawaan Taylor's contract has a base salary of just around $1 million this year. Some of the signing bonus that he got from the contract will be spread out across the years. So yeah, realistically, his cap hit this year is like $5 million, which is still very little. And yeah, it's going to end up being $20 million a year when you do the math. But the $40 million guaranteed is $40 million guaranteed. That's not going to change. He's going to get $40 million no matter what. But it is essentially a 3-year deal with a potential out after the third deal. But we'll cross that bridge when we get there. HFA Recon asks, does this rule out a potential Yannick Ngakoue signing? I think so. It doesn't rule out another potential defensive end signing, but since you're specifically asking about Yannick Ngakoue, I don't think Yannick Ngakoue is an option for the Chiefs. And that's just my feeling. He doesn't seem like a Chiefs type of signing. He's also a very similar player to Frank Clark, more productive, but I don't think the Chiefs go that route. I just don't see it. I don't think Yannick Ngakoue is their kind of player. And I also think he's going to be making more ultimately than what the Chiefs are willing to pay. Just give me 1 second, guys, while I go ahead and check Twitter again, seeing what else is going on. And then I got a whole list of stuff to talk about with you guys, and I'll go ahead and get to all of that. All right. So talked about Jawaan Taylor a little bit. Orlando Brown. I want to get to him because Adam Schefter had an interesting tidbit on ESPN today talking about Orlando Brown. Now, he said something that I think a lot of Chiefs fans already knew, but he brought up the fact that Orlando Brown hasn't been signed yet. Number one, because it's something that we all kind of knew. He's asking for way too much money. Orlando Brown overplayed his hand and he misjudged his market. No one was going to pay him what the Kansas City Chiefs offered him even last year. That wasn't going to happen. And the other issue with Orlando Brown is that he thinks he's a left tackle, wants to be paid by a left tackle. The rest of the league views him as a right tackle. And this is coming from Adam Schefter, who Adam Schefter knows what he's talking about. I mean, this is coming directly from the teams. They view Orlando Brown as a right tackle. Doug NKS says Ryan on RGR will be sad about Michael Burton. My guy Ryan, I've been wanting to have Ryan back on my channel for a very long time, but I wanted to save him for draft season because that's what he does best. If you guys know Ryan, you know he's out with his Athletic Matrix every year, his draft guy. Ryan is the absolute best. I can't wait to have him on later this offseason to talk about draft prospects. But yeah, he's going to be sad about Michael Burton. It seems like the NFL is slowly letting the fullback position die, but Ryan refuses to let the fullback die, and he's always advocating for Andy Reid to run the ball and use Michael Burton more. So yeah, it's sad. But also, I think this could be an indication that the Chiefs don't roster a fullback this year. And I talked about this late towards the end of the season, that I don't know if the Chiefs roster a fullback anymore, because I'd have to go back and check his snap count and his usage, but I think this is like the least the Chiefs have used a fullback in a very long time. Like, Michael Burton did not get much run this year, from what I remember. So this could be the end of the fullback on the Chiefs. But yeah. Anyways, with Orlando Brown, he just overplayed his hand. He misjudged his market. He's going to have to end up signing somewhere for way less. Maybe in an ideal world, Orlando Brown just takes way less money to come back and be the Chiefs' right tackle. I love Jawan Taylor, and I love Jawan Taylor more at left tackle than Orlando Brown. But you know what? I still think Orlando Brown could be a damn good right tackle. So we'll see, Orlando. I also want to talk about Andrew Wiley, since I never brought him up on any of my videos yesterday, and he ended up signing a 3-year, $24 million deal with the Washington Commanders. But before I get to that, I just noticed that the viewership went up quite a bit over the last minute or two. So for those of you that are watching, this is a Q&A. This is for you guys. As much as I'm going to talk about free agency and my thoughts, I want to answer your guys' questions, and they can be anything, Chiefs. I don't care. So if you have a question or a comment, leave it down below, and I promise you I will get to it. And if you're feeling really generous, go ahead and leave a super chat. That always helps. But Wiley, so signed a 3-year, $24 million deal with the Washington Commanders. You know what? Andrew Wiley, yeah, I thought the Chiefs could upgrade from right tackle. Andrew Wiley had his rough moments here, but ultimately Andrew Wiley stepped into a role that the Chiefs never really expected him to be in. They never planned for Andrew Wiley to be their starting right tackle. They drafted Lucas Niang, thought he'd be their right tackle. He showed some promise in 2021, gets hurt. They had Mike Remmers. He got old and hurt. Andrew Wiley steps in, who used to play guard, by the way. Steps in at right tackle, was never meant to play there. They drafted Darian Kennard. He didn't work. Wiley's their starting right tackle again. And Andrew Wiley had a rough regular season, gave up a lot of pressure, but in the end, he kicked ass in the postseason and kicked ass in the Super Bowl, and he went out there and got paid. I'm happy that the Chiefs were not the team to pay him, but I'm happy for Andrew Wiley, man. He's going to go out there to Washington and kick it with Eric Bieniemy and be overpaid while the Commanders stink next year. I'm just being honest. Good for Wiley, though, for getting paid. I also want to bring up Jody Fortson. He was tendered today by the Kansas City Chiefs. Not a huge surprise. Pretty much means that he'll be back. Looks like I got a comment from Horse Helmet, though. He says, what do you all think of wide receiver Adam Thielen, and what does that mean for Juju? So Adam Thielen, also, Ian Rappaport tweeted that he is visiting the Carolina Panthers. And I laughed when I saw that notification, because I distinctly remember when Adam Thielen was released, it was reported that he wants to sign with a contender. He wants to play with a great quarterback. And I laugh because, well, one, yeah, Carolina's not a contender, and they don't even have a quarterback right now. They're picking first overall in this upcoming draft. But also, this happens every single year. There's a free agent out there that says, I want to play for a contender. And then they sign with the exact opposite of a contender. And it's because in the end, money talks. And I'm sure Carolina will offer him a good amount of money if he decides to sign there. But as far as him coming to the Chiefs, I would like that signing. That would be really solid, especially if the Chiefs can't bring Juju back. Even if they bring Juju back, hell, go out and get Adam Thielen anyway if he's not going to cost that much and wants to play for a contender. But Juju's the priority. And let's talk about Juju next, because I have some stuff prepared for him. So obviously he hasn't signed anywhere yet. But the wide receiver market saw some movement today after no one was signed yesterday in free agency as far as wide receivers go. But Jacoby Myers today signed a 3-year, $30 million deal with the Raiders. Sorry, I think it was $30 million. If not, it was like not that much more. Signed a 3-year, $30 million deal. Okay, Jakobi Meyers gets about $10 million per year. Jakobi Meyers had 800 yards receiving last year. He's really solid. Like, I honestly would have loved signing Jakobi Meyers to that contract if the Chiefs did it. And then Allen Lazard went to the Jets on a 4-year, $44 million deal, $11 million per year for Allen Lazard. A little bit of an overpay for Lazard, but you can kind of see it, the wide receiver market, these kind of mid-tier, solid but not great wide receivers are going for a similar number. Juju should be included in that. And this helps the Chiefs because it means Juju's market isn't going to be ridiculous. But I want to pull up this tweet that I saw from my guy, Matt Verderam, who was with Arrowhead Addict, where I write, but is now with Sports Illustrated. But he tweeted out that Indianapolis, where the combine was, there was talk about Juju Smith-Schuster's market being in the $13 million range per year. Many believed he was in a similar class in comparison to Jakobi Meyers and Allen Lazard. So far, we've seen Meyers and Lazard get $11 million a year. Juju is on deck. So again, really great sign for the Kansas City Chiefs as far as their chances of being able to re-sign Juju. If you can get Juju Smith-Schuster $11, $12 million per year, that is an absolute steal in this market. Juju Smith-Schuster would have been a 1,000-yard receiver, if not for getting a concussion by Andre Sisco. And if you could get him back for essentially the Marquez Valdes-Scantling contract, that is a huge win, especially because Juju Smith-Schuster is only 26 years old still. He is still very young. So a lot of people I've noticed have started to turn on Juju a little bit, as in like, hey, I'm not a big fan of paying him, and that's fine. But $11 million per year, $12 million per year, just consider the market. That's a great deal for Juju Smith-Schuster. I have no issues with that whatsoever. All right. Doug says, I'm happy for Wiley. Yep, same here. He says, think we can get 2 wide receivers for the price of Tyreek Hill the way the market's looking for this offseason. I mean, yeah, if they really wanted to, they could pull it off. I don't think they will. I think that there's a little bit of a philosophical shift from the Chiefs now when it comes to wide receivers. They saw what they were able to do this past season with this wide receiver group. Now, that's not to say they don't want to improve it, but they know, like, hey, if we just give Mahomes a solid group, we'll be fine. So I don't think they're looking to go all out on wide receiver. But, yeah, they are looking for guys. I don't think they'll pay them the price of Tyreek Hill, though. If they ended up trading for DeAndre Hopkins, that kind of changes things because Hopkins has a relatively big contract. He doesn't make anywhere near as much as Tyreek Hill, or he wouldn't if the Chiefs traded for him, because if the Chiefs traded for DeAndre Hopkins, they actually end up paying him way less than the Cardinals would if they keep him. A lot of his money would end up counting as dead cap against Arizona. So realistically, you'd only be paying DeAndre Hopkins like $20 million the first year in KC and like $14 million the second year in KC if the Chiefs traded for him. That's not a bad deal. And DeAndre Hopkins did say that he would be willing to work a little bit with whatever team trades for him when it comes to his contract. He's not trying to be too greedy, which, I could be interested in DeAndre Hopkins. Like, I was never against trading for him. I have my concerns, like the fact that he has only, or it's been 2 years since his last 1,000-yard season. But, it's whatever. Sorry, guys. I'm just checking Twitter one more time. I'm trying to find anything I can on the Charles Omenihu signing. It's an upgrade over Clark, in my opinion. Well, an upgrade in value over Clark. Him and Clark are probably similar players, but I like this signing a lot for the Kansas City Chiefs. That's Charles Omenihu. It's such a Chiefs signing, too. It really is. But yeah, going back to DeAndre Hopkins, like, I would not be against the Chiefs trading for DeAndre Hopkins. I have my concerns. I mean, the lower body injuries have kind of caught up to him over the past couple of years. He had surgery for a lower leg injury last year, had all that rest, from getting suspended for the first 6 games of 2022, and then the same injury that he had surgery on ended up popping up again, even after all that time off. And that's not a good sign, especially when you consider he's also 31 years old. But he did have 700 yards in 9 games last year. That's very impressive. He's still a great player. And also, I've said that he brings an aura to the Chiefs that Patrick Mahomes has never really had before. And that's even when he's not open, he's still open. Like if you chuck it to him, he's going to come down with it. And Mahomes has never really had a receiver like that. Like even Tyreek Hill wasn't like that. But yeah, DeAndre Hopkins, his contested catchability is like none other. But there's better value out there for the Chiefs as far as wide receivers go. Like they could bring back Juju realistically if they can get him for a similar deal to like an Allen Lazard or Jacoby Myers. And they could still go out and get, I don't know, DJ Chark, Adam Thielen, a guy like that if they really wanted to. I don't know if they will, but they could if they wanted to. Isaiah Nees, what's up, man? He says, when will Veach stop sleeping on Zadarius Smith, man? Like, for real, LOL. Well, so Zadarius Smith, we got to remember that he's technically still not a free agent yet. We want him to become a free agent, and if he became a free agent, I think the Chiefs would be an immediate suitor for him. But at the same time, he's still under contract with the Vikings. He only requested a release. Doesn't mean he'll get released. The Vikings did sign free agent defensive end Marcus Davenport yesterday, which probably means now that they have sort of a Zadarius Smith replacement that they're going to be more willing to move him now. But I would even think that the Vikings would try to trade him for something before they released him. Now, we know how these situations usually end. If the player wants out, the player will get out one way or another, but I don't know if he gets cut, and I don't know if the Chiefs get him. But I would love to see it. I wanted him last year, but we'll see. Chiefs Live says, love the channel, by the way. Thanks, man. I appreciate it. And thank you for letting me know about the Omenihu signing, right, when I started the live stream. We got 24 people in here right now. For those of you watching, if you got any comments or questions, leave them down below. Anything free agency, anything Chiefs, I don't care. I'm here to answer your guys' questions tonight. Make sure you like and share this video too so more Chiefs fans can find it. And if you're feeling generous, you can always leave a super chat. Doug says, do you think we'll still get a veteran QB, and who are your thoughts? So it seems like the Chiefs have been gearing for Shane Buechele to be their new long-term backup quarterback. Like Chad Henne just retired. This would seem like the perfect time for Shane Buechele to step in. He's been in the organization for a couple of years now. The Chiefs have blocked him from signing with other teams several times now. Like they did all that for a reason. If you're going to do all that, at some point you're going to have to play him. Like what's the point of keeping him if you're going to invest all this into him? But I could still see them going out and getting a veteran anyway, because the Chiefs like to confuse me like that sometimes. But as far as veterans, if they do try to get a veteran back up, I like Marcus Mariota. I also like Drew Lock, who's a free agent, and Drew Lock is a Missouri native. You know, he's a Chiefs fan growing up. I think if he worked with Andy Reid and learned behind Patrick Mahomes, he could be a guy that you could still flip later on, like the Chiefs kind of want to do with Shane Buechele. Like that's the vibe I get. Shane Buechele was kind of supposed to be their new Jimmy Garoppolo kind of guy, like the Patriots did with Brady, where he was young and they liked what they saw in him. They let him play a little bit in preseason and some regular season games in relief of Tom Brady. Looked good, and then they flipped him for like a day 2 draft pick. The Chiefs could also do that with a guy like Drew Lock, develop him, see what else they can give him. And he's also a big Chiefs fan. And I think Andy Reid also has a thing for Mizzou guys too, given that he used to coach there. He always does his due diligence with Missouri guys. I've always said that. And that's one of the biggest reasons I said that they were going to draft Nick Bolton, or that they should draft Nick Bolton. And then they did. And it's because Andy Reid, he still got that heart for Mizzou. Connor's in here. He says, what are your thoughts on Anthony Becht? I think he is a terrible head coach that has no idea what he's doing on the sidelines. Horse Helmet says, I like the Drew Lock idea, not going to lie. Yeah, no, I mean, it makes a lot of sense if the Chiefs want to bring in a veteran, and Drew Lock has some game experience. And if he learns behind Andy Reid and Patrick Mahomes, he's a guy that, you know, I'd be comfortable letting him sling it in a real game if, like, Mahomes got injured or something like that, and you wouldn't be too worried. You could probably make it through a couple games with Drew Lock. see if there's anything else going on. I also saw that David Montgomery signed a 3-year deal with the Detroit Lions. He was connected to the Chiefs when I was reading the news before free agency. Matt Verderam of Sports Illustrated, I brought up his tweet a little while ago about Juju. He tweets about Charles Omenihu, the new Chiefs defensive end. It should also be noted Omenihu was arrested in January for suspicion of misdemeanor domestic violence before being released after posting bail. So you got to watch out for that with Omenihu, and that also could be one of the reasons why Omenihu's deal was worth a max value of $20 million. So it could be a lot of things in that contract about legal troubles and incentives like involving that kind of thing. And also, if we know how the NFL likes to work, Charles Omenihu could be suspended next year for a couple of games for that incident. The legal trouble isn't nothing. But I mean, all in all, I like this move a lot. He's still very young, 25 years old. He's athletic. I liked him coming out of Texas. And Joe Cullen, the Chiefs defensive line coach, we saw a lot of improvement with this defensive line under him in year one. And I think you just give him the pieces that he can make a damn good pass rush. And I'm excited to see what Joe Cullen is able to do with an athletic edge rusher like Charles Omenihu. Not surprised that the Chiefs did this move at all. Really solid, though. I like it a lot. And it fills a need, too. Like, this is a good Frank Clark replacement for sure. For a lot cheaper, too. Like, would you rather have Charles Omenihu for a 2-year, $20 million deal with a bunch of incentives, or Frank Clark getting $20 million again and for a single season? Like, give me Charles Omenihu. He's got the same output as Frank Clark for a fraction of the cost. Love it. For that reason solely. Like, Charles Omenihu could go out there and be like even worse than I think he's going to be. And he gets like 2 sacks, plays 30% of the snaps, whatever. Don't care. Upgrade over Frank Clark. I like it a lot, though. I like it a lot. Here's a stat. QB pressures in 2022. Charles Omenihu, 54. Frank Clark, 24. Charles Omenihu had 30 more QB pressures than Frank Clark, if this person on Twitter that I'm reading from is correct. Okay, it looks like someone corrected it. Frank Clark had 45 pressures, but Charles Omenihu still had more. He also had more quarterback hurries, and of course he had the 4.5 sacks. Not as many tackles as Clark, but also if I went and compared snap counts, I'd be willing to bet that Omenihu played less snaps than Clark did for the Chiefs last year. So, or at least a less percentage, because I know Frank Clark got suspended for those 4 games in the middle of the year. Or was it 2 games? I think it might have been 2 games. Either way, you get the point. I'll go back to some of your guys' comments. Connor says Andy loves vet backups. He's going to sign someone, might as well. Former Super Bowl MVP Nick or Flacco. I mean, yeah, no, Andy loves his veteran backups, but here we go with your affinity for Nick Foles and Joe Flacco. But just give me Drew Lock, man. At least you can agree with that. You have enough Mizzou fan left in you that you can agree that Drew Lock needs to become a Chief. A good Frank Clark replacement is any starting caliber edge. Actually, any backup caliber edge is a good Frank Clark replacement. Doug says, Josh, your Arrowhead Addict writing pieces are great. Go check them out in the chat. Yeah, I haven't done anything about free agency, but Arrowhead Addict is where I first wrote about the possibility of Jawaan Taylor coming to the Chiefs. I texted my head editor, Matt Connor, or I sent him an email, and I'm like, hey, I got one more piece I'm going to do about the Chiefs signing Jawaan Taylor. Would you be able to get it out tonight before free agency tomorrow? And he's like, yeah, absolutely. And good thing I did that, man, because that's who the first signing of free agency was for the Chiefs. It was Jawaan Taylor. Eric says, I can be better than Clark. That means nothing. I mean, yeah, we could all try to run around the tackle as fast as possible. Wyatt Burns says, I already know you are missing Frank Clark the Shark. Absolutely not. I'm good on Frank Clark, man. I'm good on Frank Clark. For those of you that are just hopping in here, this is a Q&A as much as it is a free agency live stream. So if you have any questions or comments, leave them down below. I will be sure to get to them, and I will answer your questions. I got to say, though, I'm fairly surprised that the Chiefs haven't signed a wide receiver yet, whether that's Juju Smith-Schuster or somebody else. I expected some sort of movement there by now. I also would like to see at some point this free agency or in the next couple of days, the Chiefs add a depth defensive back. Somebody that I brought up on Arrowhead Addict as well was Taylor Rapp, the former Los Angeles Rams safety. Some people feel really strongly about him the other way, as in like they think he's terrible. I don't think he's terrible. Yeah, he's not the best, but like that's kind of the point. Like he be coming here to be your third safety and replace Juan Thornhill. Like the Chiefs drafted Brian Cook. I think Brian Cook will get a big increase in playing time next year. You already got Justin Reed back there. Sign Taylor Rapp to be your third safety. He can come down and cover a tight end or whatever and not be terrible at it. And he's got some versatility, and I don't think he would cost that much. And the other thing with Taylor Rapp is like the Chiefs love to play three safeties. We know that the Chiefs love to play three safeties. So go out and get a quality third safety. Now, yeah, you could draft somebody, and we do know that the Chiefs have a lot of trust in rookies and young defensive backs. We saw that this past season. I mean, they started several rookies in the secondary. But also, even with the way the Chiefs free agency has went so far, they still have a lot of needs to hit in the draft and a lot of needs that I think need to be addressed with the first few picks. Like you still need a right tackle. That's probably going to be a position you take with your first or second round pick. Wide receiver, I think you're probably going to need to add to. I think you're probably going to have to draft another edge. Those are going to have to come early. So I don't know where defensive back falls in there. Now, we do have trust in Brett Veach to draft well later in the draft in the late rounds. And this defensive back class is deep this year. So we'll see, man. We'll see. But I would definitely love to go out there and grab a vet in free agency to shore up the secondary. And that way you don't have to address it in the draft if you don't want to. You still could, but you don't have to. Comments on Chiefs legend Jarran Reed. He's not a Chiefs legend, but he's back on the Seahawks. Jarran Reed, one of the most disappointing signings ever. Yeah, like Connor and I joke about how I said that Jarran Reed was a welcome addition to the pass rush a few years ago when the Chiefs signed him. And like he was like, I didn't think he would be that bad. Like I thought he would come in here and give you like 4 or 5 sacks or something playing next to Chris Jones. That's not what happened at all. Jarran Reed came here and just completely forgot how to play football. But also at the same time, it's worth mentioning that Brendan Daly, the former Chiefs defensive line coach, who has since been demoted to, people will say moved. I think he was demoted to linebackers coach. And by the way, the linebackers took a step back this year. So what does that say about Brendan Daly as a coach? Anyway, Jarran Reed came here, got significantly worse. And he was not the only lineman. He was not the only defensive player that came to the Kansas City Chiefs and got significantly worse playing in this system. And then Joe Cullen steps in here, and I really do feel like that Joe Cullen got the most out of everybody this past year on the defensive line. Like Chris Jones tied his career high in sacks. Frank Clark had a good year relative to what he's given Kansas City in the past. Mike Daniel was actually pretty good this year. George Karlaftis had 6.5 sacks as a rookie. I give a lot of credit to Joe Cullen and the job that he was able to do. So, yeah. Jarran Reed being a disaster here, I think, had a lot to do with the coaching as well. Cooper Fran says, what do you think of 2 wide receivers in round 4? I think that's what you're asking. As in, like, drafting 2 wide receivers in the 4th round? You might have to reword your question for me, Cooper, but I appreciate it nonetheless. I'm just going to go ahead and assume that you're asking, what do I think of 2 wide receivers in round 4? I mean, if they like the value there, sure. It just all depends on how the board falls. But I'm not going to sit here and pretend to know the wide receiver class that well that I can predict who could be a good pick there in round 4. Like, I'm just not that far yet in my draft coverage. Right now, it's all free agency. It's all full throttle on free agency. Eddie Rose says, "Hey Josh, how are you doing? MIZZOU. Eddie, I have a question. Do you think we can start 5-0 heading to LSU? I think we'll be fired up for Kansas State because of what happened last year. Love the channel." I don't know, man. It's just too early, and I think we have a lot of roster additions to see. I don't even know who's going to start at quarterback yet. Is it Garcia? Is it Horn? I don't know. A lot depends on that. We'll just have to see. Doug NKS says, "I hope we re-sign McKinnon. Please and thank you." Yeah, I would like to bring Jerick McKinnon back in an ideal world, but I also wouldn't be surprised if the Chiefs decided to get younger or even draft another late-round running back like they did with Isaiah Pacheco. I think Veach learned that you can find productive running backs in the late rounds of the draft. Learned from his Clyde Edwards-Helaire pick, for sure. I think it's definitely an objective for Brett Veach to bring back McKinnon, though, because you could still always bring him back on like a 1-year, $2 million deal and then cut him if you like someone better and don't think he's going to make the team, and it's not going to cost you really anything to get rid of him. But yeah, I mean, I would like to see McKinnon back, and I was on the McKinnon boat from day one, man. Like, I loved that signing. Thought he should have played more in 2021. Glad that the Chiefs actually discovered that he was on the roster by the time the playoffs came around. And then obviously you saw he was a huge factor this year in what the Chiefs were able to do. I'm going to answer this question from Mike Wallace. And then I think I'm going to go ahead and wrap it up there. I just want to do a quick live stream with you guys tonight and talk about all of my Chiefs free agency thoughts so far and all that stuff. But I'll go ahead and answer this last question unless you guys just happen to flood the chat with more right before I get off, because that's definitely happened before. But I'll go ahead and answer this. Juju or Thielen? I actually kind of answered this earlier in the live stream. But Juju, I mean, I think he's probably your first option. I mean, I think another year in this offense and he could have a really big year. Sorry, stumbling with my words a little bit, but I think he could have a really big year in this offense. Another year learning the playbook, developing his chemistry with Patrick Mahomes. I think he's a good fit for the offense. And I don't think he'll cost very much. If you've been paying attention to the wide receiver market today, I don't think it'll cost very much to bring Juju back, not unless some other desperate team throws a bunch of money at him because wide receivers are coming off the board or something like that. So yeah, Juju is the number one option. He's also much younger than Adam Thielen, and he could be a better longer term option. Thielen is like what, 33, 34 or something like that. I mean, he would be a this year type of signing. Like, you sign Adam Thielen to a 1-year deal and give him an opportunity to ring chase. And I'd rather have Juju, but it's not impossible that the Chiefs could sign Juju and get Adam Thielen and sign him to like a 1-year, $8 million deal or something like that. We'll see, though. Thielen is visiting the Carolina Panthers, so I don't know what's going to come out of that. He can end up signing with them, and nothing else will matter. But hopefully that answers your question, Mike. I appreciate the question. But with all that being said, I'm going to go ahead and wrap it up. I appreciate all of you that were able to join tonight. And like Doug says, hit that like button because it helps me out the most. But I appreciate you all. I'm going to have more coming at you over the next few days, and I'm sure we'll see more Chiefs moves. I'll probably go and make another video talking about Charles Omenihu right after this, but at least you guys were able to get my raw, organic reaction to the Chiefs signing Omenihu live on the stream. But yeah, guys, love that you all were able to join me tonight. But with all that being said, make sure you like, share, and subscribe so more Chiefs fans can find this. Make sure you check out my work on showmefootball.com and arrowheadaddict.com. And I will see you all in the next one. Go Chiefs!